Did you hear the latest about the Kim Klacik investigation? No? There's a reason for that. Because there is no investigation. Unless you count the rantings and the ridiculous nonsense and smear campaign coming from Candace Owens and the Tatums. But there have been some new developments, and we'll be talking about that next. Welcome to Escaping the Echo Chamber. Has Candace Owens been kind of quiet lately? No, she hasn't. No matter how much we might wish she would just shut up. Except now she's complaining about Kim Klacik suing her for $20 million. But before we go any further, let's take a quick trip down memory lane to see how we got here. Also, make sure to stay to the end because I'm going to be sharing some information that nobody else is talking about that will let us know how this case will likely turn out. Back in June, Candace Owens was engaging in her favorite pastime of maligning Black people. In this particular instance, she was talking about how Black people are also brainwashed. Kim Klacik came to the defense of Black people and said, hey, how about not being so disrespectful towards the Black community as a whole? Of course, if you listen to the lies of Candace Owens, she'll try to claim that this was about Juneteenth when this was about her routine disrespect and denigration of Black people. But not wanting to be denied one of her favorite and most lucrative activities, Candace Owens went on the warpath for Kim, suggesting that she stop bad-mouthing Black people. It quickly escalated from ridiculous tweets from Candace Owens to a 45-minute Instagram video where Kim Klacik was exposed. In this video, Candace Owens talked about Kim Klacik's past as a stripper, her campaign, claimed that she had been buying drugs with campaign money, and also had committed various other federal crimes, in her opinion. What's really interesting is how Candace's followers reacted. Instead of engaging in the critical thinking they claim to be the paragons of, they just followed along. They bought her nonsense hook, line, and sinker, despite so many signs that this should be taken with a little bit more than a grain of salt. They completely bought her complete and utter bull. One thing they failed to do was listen between the lines. If Candace Owens had proof that Kim Klacik had committed various federal crimes, why was she bringing this information to Instagram rather than the FEC or the DOJ? This simple question eluded the small minds of Candace's minions. Also, if a prominent Trump supporter committed various crimes, why wouldn't the left-leaning media be all over the story? Because even after Candace went public, no other media source gave any credence to any of the nonsense she spouted. If it was reported at all, it was only reported as a feud between two Black conservative women. That's it. This fact went over the head of Candace's silliest supporters. And with these claims, that question should have been asked about one outlet above all others. Considering I'm talking about negative information about a Trump supporter, you probably think I'm talking about CNN or MSNBC. But no, the question people should have been asking this question about is the Daily Wire, the channel, the outlet that Candace Owens works for. I mean, why wouldn't the outlet that has a daily show for Candace give her the opportunity to provide her explosive expose on its airwaves? Things that make you go, Additionally, they failed to listen carefully to Candace's own words, where she constantly tried to hedge her accusations with words and phrases like, in my opinion, my feeling, I don't know. These weasel words would have made it clear to Candace's supporters that she wasn't even willing to stand behind the accusations that she was spouting and that they were accepting as absolute gospel. And after all that, months later, we still have no known investigations. But we do have a lawsuit. And after blatantly smearing Kim, Candace and crew are playing the victim. In fact, Tatum made a video claiming that this is being done, in his opinion, to silence dissenting voices. And of course, Candace wasn't trying to silence Kim with baseless allegations, right? But what will come of this? Will Kim win? Is this the end of Candace Owens? There have been some interesting takes. The Amazing Lucas said he predicts that the lawsuit will fail. And he's not the only one. Among other things, he doesn't think that Ben Shapiro would allow Candace to go forward with something that could potentially be and put her at risk. He feels that Ben would not put his company at risk by allowing one of his employees to make such baseless and ridiculous allegations if they could be actionable and it could blow back on him. And that actually raises some interesting points, but that's why I think it's critical to note that Candace didn't make these claims on her Daily Wire show. I think there's a reason for that. I agree with Amazing Lucas that Ben Shapiro was way too smart to allow Candace to say that dumb shit on his show. I think that's why she had to go on to Instagram to spread her lies, and why even after all this time, that's where those lies have stayed, on Instagram and other social media platforms, not on her show. I don't think Ben Shapiro is dumb enough to allow that garbage on his platform to jeopardize his money. This is one of the initial reasons why I was of the mind that this lawsuit would succeed. But then I heard a different take. You see, I heard some points from an attorney that made me stop and think that, there may be some problems with this case. I had actually been thinking about the possible obstacles to Kim's lawsuit, especially in terms of the way that Candace made her Instagram post and the things she said in it. Adrienne Lawrence was on Dr. Rashad Ritchie's show, and she noted that Candace Owens hedged her statements with buzzwords like cannot verify and doesn't know, which she believes is sufficient enough to allow Candace to escape liability from a defamation lawsuit. She feels that this will enable Candace to beat the case and have it thrown out because she didn't say definitively that this was what was happening. This actually reminded me of some principles I had come across in previous legal research and why I had that same question, but I wasn't entirely sure that it was accurate. You see, I thought, okay, if you say, in my opinion, if you leave some wiggle room, then there might be a possibility for you to escape any culpability. But what I had read in other legal, vaguely remembered reading was that's not entirely accurate. So I did some research. What does the law say? A defamation suit alleges that somebody has made false statements that damage your reputation. There are several defenses to defamation suits, including truth. If you can prove that your statements are true, that is an absolute defense to a defamation suit. There is also a defense that if your statements are opinions and not facts, you cannot be held liable. That is the principle which Adrienne Lawrence and others believe will help Candace win this lawsuit. But before we get to what the likely outcome is, I believe it's going to be incredibly telling what Candace's defense is. I mean, if these statements are true, then her defense should be not that she stated opinion. Her defense should be that these statements are true, and that is why the defamation lawsuit must fail. I think that is a key objective of what Kim Klacik is doing to expose Candace Owens. If Candace is unwilling to go on the record and claim that her claims are true, it further proves that she's full of it. But a lot of people don't seem to understand the limits of the defenses to defamation. And this is the part that I haven't seen anybody else talk about. You see, just saying opinion doesn't necessarily make it so. There are limits to what is considered opinion, and it's not just necessarily what you or I as lay people may consider to be opinion. You see, the Supreme Court of the United States characterizes opinion much differently than we may. What if I say this person is a murderer? Is that a fact? Cool. I've alleged a fact. What if I say, in my opinion, that person is a murderer? Is it still a fact or is it an opinion now? You see, that's where a lot of non-lawyers mess up, because they think that just because they've said those words, in my opinion, that makes what otherwise would be characterized as facts, opinions. The Supreme Court sees it slightly differently. So the case is Milkovich versus Lorraine Journal. And it deals with the limits of, it's a defamation case, but it also deals with, specifically for us, the limits of defamation. So like I said, opinion is a defense to defamation, but what is an opinion is something that is specifically dealt with. And here in this particular portion, you can see in the highlighted part, it explains exactly what I said prior about simply couching a statement, Jones is a liar, in terms of opinion, saying, in my opinion, Jones is a liar, does not dispel the factual implications contained in the statement. You see, you're still making an allegation. So you can pretend that it's just your opinion, but and that's what you have to realize, why there's all these outlets that didn't want to touch this story. Because Candace can sit there and say, oh, in my opinion, Kim committed money laundering. In my opinion, Kim was committing various federal crimes. Committing various federal crimes are statements, are facts. Those are factual allegations. Now, your opinion is that you're saying that your opinion is that she did these things, but you have no evidence. And that's the problem. Just publicly making such statements that which you have no evidence to support is a problem. And if we look at the next page, there's the highlighted portion reads, under the law of defamation, an expression of opinion could be defamatory if the expression was sufficiently derogatory of another as to cause harm to his reputation. And so now one of the things this case does, it goes into the history of the defamation law, and it establishes that they didn't create a whole, like this whole exemption, this whole area that would be exempt from defamation liability when they were referring to opinion. They wanted to make sure that there's a clear delineation between opinion and fact. And so if you look at the second portion that's highlighted, it says, according to the majority rule, the privilege of fair comment applied only to an expression of opinion and not to a false statement of fact. Let me read that again. The privilege of fair comment applied only to an expression of opinion and not to a false statement of fact, whether it was expressly stated or implied from an expression of opinion. That's what's key. So where people think that, oh, I can state a fact and then just say, well, it's my opinion, and I created a loophole. No, the courts aren't stupid. The courts, I mean, these lawyers and legalese, they know their way around words. So they know the difference, and they have clearly delineated that if you're making an allegation, a factual allegation, that's not opinion. That's separate. So Candace thinks she created wiggle room by using statements like, I can't verify, don't know, not sure, no evidence of. She actually buried herself. She made it worse for herself, because what she established was she had no basis, no factual basis to make these allegations and accusations. Furthermore, if you look at the first portion where it talks about the causing harm to somebody's reputation, where Candace is talking about, oh, I have to expose her, she makes it clear that that is her goal. Her goal was to harm Kimberly Klacik's reputation. That was her purpose. So Candace actually buried herself. All of these things that people think gave her wiggle room are actually what buried Candace Owens further. And that's why Candace Owens is going down. You see, Candace is lazy. So is Brandon. They don't like to read, and they don't do their research. They seek the easy way out. That's probably one of the reasons why they've chosen their particular grifts. And their laziness just might be their undoing. So while it seems that they hedged their statements, they never realized certain things. They never seemed to realize why no one else wanted to touch these accusations. They never stopped to think why Candace's boss, who is a Harvard-educated lawyer, didn't want to touch the story. They never stopped to think why all of these left-leaning outlets who would jump at a chance to expose a Trump supporter didn't jump on this story. You see, they read the Cliff Notes version of defamation, and they ran with it. And it seems like that's what's already gotten them in a world of trouble. A $20 million world of trouble. I don't know how this is going to end, but I have a feeling this is going to get interesting. As always, don't forget to hit that thumbs up, like, share, and subscribe if you haven't already. Or if you disagree with me and you think, no, Kim Klacik is crooked, I know she was doing that, and Candace is going to prove it and take her all the way down. 1, you're an idiot. 2, hit the thumbs down button, and feel free to tell me why you're so gullible and why you are clearly allergic to critical thinking. I'll see you next time.